look like Team USA is forcing Caitlin Clark to change her infamous 22 number to a new one. Guys, for this,
the ultimatum was as simple as it was stunning. Behind the closed doors of Team USA basketball headquarters, a conversation took place that would ignite the most volatile controversy the women's game has seen in years. According to insiders, when officials told rising superstar Caitlin Clark she would not be allowed to wear her iconic number 22 at the upcoming training camp, her response was immediate and absolute. The message was clear: if I can't wear my number, I'm not coming. This was a negotiation tactic. It was a line drawn in the sand by the most influential player of her generation, directed at the most powerful institution in her sport. And in that moment, a simple jersey number transformed into battleground for a war over respect, identity, and who truly hold the power in the new era of women's basketball.
Because we ultimately know she was snubbed from the cover of Team USA, and not only is they snubbing her, the disrespect is continuing because it's looking like Team USA is forcing Caitlin Clark to change her number. Now, this article...
Before we get into the shocking details of this story, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on. What you're about to hear isn't just sports gossip. It's a power struggle that could redefine an entire program, and you won't want to miss how this ends. The public first saw the evidence, not in a press conference, but in a cold, administrative document. The training camp roster was released, listing the sport's brightest young talents. Fans scanning for Caitlin Clark's name found it, but next to it was a digit that felt like a deliberate provocation: number 17. Not 22, the number she wore while shattering NCAA records, the number stitched onto her Indiana Fever jersey as she took the WNBA by storm, the number printed on millions of jerseys sold to a new wave of fans. Gone. Replaced by a number with no history, no meaning, and no connection to the Caitlin Clark brand. For her supporters, it was a blatant demotion, a symbolic stripping of the identity she'd built. Team USA didn't just ask her to change a number. They asked her to erase a symbol. And the question on everyone's mind was, why?
We're number 17 at Team USA training camp. On December 24th, news broke that Caitlin Clark will be taking a part in the training, which that's what we talked about at the beginning of the video. Now, this right here this came out this came out on the 24th. So these are the numbers, man. Head on over to Twitter and check this out real quick. So this is what was released right here. It says Lauren Betts. Hold on, here's the ages. Where's the number? Here we go, right here. So these are the numbers. Caitlin Clark. Let me blow this all the way up, man. I want to blow this all the way up so y'all can see this. So as y'all can see here, man, how did Caitlin Clark number will be changed? So who's wearing 22? Or if you guys remember, Michael Jordan wore number 45 in the Olympics. Could Caitlin, because it don't look like no one's wearing number 22. It don't look like no one's wearing number 20.
This wasn't merely an administrative oversight. In the highly curated world of elite sports, jersey numbers, especially for players of this caliber, are negotiated and respected. They are part of the athlete's contract with a franchise and by extension with their fans. For an organization with the resources and experience of USA basketball to overlook this is not just negligent, it feels calculated. It sends a chilling message to every young athlete watching. Even at the pinnacle of success, your identity can be reassigned by a committee. The choice of number 17 itself adds another layer of perplexity. It's not a number with historic weight. In USA basketball lore, it's not a nod to a past legend. It's an arbitrary digit, which to many feels like being given a uniform in a tryout camp rather than a tailored jersey for the face of the sport.
He made the Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark. Number 22 is the most recognizable number in women's sports right now. There is no argument to be made. There's no case to be made. Caitlin Clark, number 22, is the most recognizable number for any woman athlete.
This move immediately sparked memories of how other global superstars in different sports were treated regarding their numbers. Soccer icons often have their numbers protected in international play. NBA superstars have had numbers retired in their honor at the Olympics. For Clark, the opposite was happening at the very first step of her national team journey. To understand why this feels like such a profound disrespect, you have to understand what 22 represents. For Clark, it's not a random choice. She's explained that she was born on January 22nd, and even as a kid, it felt like the obvious choice. It's woven into her personal story.
I'm not a very creative person. I was born on January 22nd, so it's what I went with when I was about 5 years old.
But through her unprecedented college career and explosive professional debut, 22 transcended a birth date. It became a logo. When fans, especially young ones, see that number from the nosebleed seats, they know exactly who it is. It signifies a 40-foot launch pad, a no-look pass, a competitive fire that changed the economics of an entire sport. It's as inseparable from her as 23 is from Jordan, 30 is from Curry, or 99 is from Gretzky. It's her mark. Forcing a change isn't a minor logistical issue. It's an attack on the very iconography that has driven the sport's recent surge in popularity. It's asking her to be less recognizable at the very moment her recognizability is her greatest asset. That number is a shorthand for a revolution. Parents point to it on TV, telling their kids about the player who changed the game. Young players lacing up their sneakers choose 22 as an aspirational talisman. In a marketplace where athlete branding is everything, the 22 is Clark's most valuable trademark. For USA Basketball to dismiss its importance is to fundamentally misunderstand modern sports commerce and fandom. It reveals a potential generational disconnect between an old-school system that views jerseys as mere uniforms and a new reality, where they are mobile billboards for a player's legacy. This number carries the weight of every record-breaking viewership number, every sold-out arena on the road, and every milestone that brought headlines to the women's game. To strip it away is to symbolically distance the national team from the very boom they claim to want to harness and sustain for the future. But here's the detail that turns this entire situation from baffling to downright provocative. As analysts and fans poured over that official Team USA roster, a glaring fact emerged. Number 22 wasn't just taken from Caitlin Clark. It was, according to the list, assigned to no one. It wasn't reserved for a veteran legend as a sign of respect. It wasn't claimed by another rising star who also wears it. It sat there vacant, an empty jersey. This changes everything. If the number was already in use, there would be a precedent, a tradition to navigate, but an unassigned number? That makes the decision to force Clark away from it look intentional. It feels less like a rule and more like a message. Your iconography doesn't matter here. We decide your identity. This move stripped away any possible bureaucratic excuse and revealed what many believe is a true core of the conflict, a struggle for control between a traditional institution and a player who has outgrown its old frameworks. The vacancy screams of a principle being enforced for principle's sake, a bizarre power play with no tangible benefit. It invites speculation. Was it left open to avoid setting a precedent of catering to a young star? Was it a passive-aggressive gesture following the Olympic snub? A reminder of her place in the hierarchy? In the absence of a logical, competitive reason, like avoiding duplication on the court, the only remaining explanations are personal or political. This detail is what transformed the story from a sports news item into a full-blown cultural debate. It allowed Clark's stance to be framed not as diva behavior, but as a justified stand against a petty and seemingly targeted act of erasure. The empty 22 jersey became the perfect visual metaphor for the entire controversy, a wasted opportunity, a symbol of pride left on the shelf, and a void where recognition should be. Behind the scenes, the fallout was immediate and chaotic. Sources close to the program described Team USA managing director and legend Sue Bird as being in full crisis control mode. Bird, who helped shape this training camp roster, was now facing a media firestorm of her own program's making. Instead of preparing for a celebration of future talent, she was reportedly scrambling to manage a public relations disaster. Her reaction swung between frustration at how this was allowed to happen and anxiety over how to fix it without appearing to cave or further disrespect Clark. The camp, featuring stars like Paige Buchers and Juju Watkins, was supposed to be a positive story about the pipeline of talent. Instead, Bird was left trying to explain why the pipeline's most influential figure was being asked to shrink herself before she even arrived. The entire incident exposed a staggering lack of awareness from USA Basketball's leadership, and Bird, as the face of that leadership, was left holding the bag. For Bird, a revered figure known for her court vision and leadership, this off-court fumble is particularly damaging. It pits her legacy as a player who fought for the growth of the women's game against her current role as an administrator, seemingly stifling its brightest star. The pressure on her is multifaceted. She must answer to her superiors, manage the perceptions of other players and system, and navigate the court of public opinion, which has overwhelmingly sided with Clark. Her every move is now scrutinized. Does she overrule the decision and grant Clark the number, potentially undermining other staff and protocols? Or Does she uphold the ruling, risking Clark's departure and becoming the villain who alienated a generation of new fans? This crisis is the first true test of her administrative tenure, and it's a test that arrived not from external forces, but from a stunning, self-inflicted wound within her own organization. For many observers, this jersey controversy didn't happen in a vacuum. It's the latest chapter in what appears to be a strained relationship between Caitlin Clark and the USA basketball hierarchy. Let's rewind. Just months earlier, Clark was the most shocking omission from the star-studded U.S. Olympic roster. Despite being the single biggest ratings draw and cultural phenomenon in the sport, she was left home. The explanation centered on experience and fit, but to millions of fans, it felt like a snub of the highest order. Then came the video game covers and promotions where her face was conspicuously absent. Each incident, on its own, could be explained away, but together they form a pattern that suggests certain decision-makers are either uncomfortable with or dismissive of the seismic shift Clark represents. The number change feels like the most personal entry in that pattern, a direct, tangible action that minimizes her brand at the very institution that should be elevating it. This pattern fuels a narrative that USA basketball, an institution built on past glories, is struggling to integrate a player who operates by a new set of rules of media, marketing, and individual stardom that have traditionally been more associated with men's sports. It hints at an institutional culture that may value quiet conformity over disruptive megastardom, even when that stardom is a tide lifting all boats. The jersey number, therefore, becomes the physical manifestation of this friction. It's no longer about fabric. It's about whether the establishment will acknowledge and embrace the new paradigm she embodies, or repeatedly signal through a series of small cuts that she must fit into their existing box. This is where the power dynamics flip entirely. A decade ago, a young player might have had no choice but to accept this and be grateful for the invite. But Caitlin Clark exists in a different reality. She doesn't need Team USA to validate her career or her legacy. Her records are set, her jersey sales are record-breaking, and her ability to draw millions of viewers is proven. She is, in the truest sense, the face of the sport's future. Team USA, on the other hand, needs her desperately. They need her for the relevance of their future Olympic teams, for the television ratings that drive revenue, and for connecting with the next generation of fans she personally brought to the game. If she follows through on her reported ultimatum and walks away, she loses a line on her resume. They lose a monumental piece of their cultural currency and public interest. This confrontation has finally laid bare an uncomfortable truth for the old guard. The player holds more cards than the program. Clark's power is rooted in a modern economy of influence that transcends traditional athletic institutions. Her social media reach, her name, image, and likeness valuation, and her proven ability to move merchandise and ratings give her a form of leverage previous generations could only dream of. She represents the athlete as a sovereign entity. A potential 2028 Olympic roster without Caitlin Clark isn't just weaker on the court, it's a commercial and promotional nightmare. This standoff proves that the balance of power in sports has irrevocably shifted. The institutions no longer grant stardom. They must now court it, accommodate it, and sometimes simply get out of its way. Ultimately, this fight over 2 digits on a jersey is about something far more significant than fabric. It's a microcosm of the systemic issues that have plagued women's sports for decades: the struggle for respect, fair valuation, and control over one's own image and brand. WNBA players have been loudly and rightfully advocating for better pay, better travel conditions, and better marketing. They've spoken about feeling undervalued. So, when the system's most marketable player is told to set aside the cornerstone of her marketability for no apparent reason, it resonates as a profound hypocrisy. It feels like the very system that should be championing its stars is instead trying to put them in their place. This controversy has become a flashpoint, connecting directly to the heated discussions around the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement and the constant fight for athletes to be treated as the premier assets they are. It echoes the frustrations of every female athlete who has been told to be grateful for scraps, to not make waves, and prioritize the collective over their individual worth. Clark's refusal to back down is being watched as a bellwether moment. If she can be forced to comply on something as fundamental as her identifying symbol, what does that say about the ability of other players to negotiate for more substantive things like equity, revenue sharing, or charter flights? Her stance, therefore, is interpreted by many as a defense not just of her own brand, but of every player's right to own and control the value they generate. So what happens now? Should Caitlin Clark compromise for the good of the team and wear 17, swallowing what many see as a pointed disrespect, or should she stand her ground, even if it means walking away from representing her country, to make a statement that an athlete's identity and brand are not negotiable? Her decision will send a seismic message. If she backs down, it signals that even the most powerful star can be forced to conform. If she walks, it exposes a crippling dysfunction within USA basketball and empowers every player who follows to demand better treatment. There is no easy answer. The pull of national pride is immense, and the opportunity to eventually win gold is a powerful motivator. But the precedent set is equally powerful. This moment transcends basketball. It's about autonomy in an era where athletes are more than just employees. They are ecosystems. The world is watching to see if the old systems of control can bend to accommodate a new kind of sports superstar, or if they will break, trying to enforce outdated protocols. The resolution or lack thereof will define the relationship between this generation of athletes and the governing body for years to come, making this far more than a debate about a jersey. It's a negotiation for the very soul of the modern game. This story is still developing, and its implications will be felt for years. What do you think Caitlyn should do? Would you quit over a jersey number? Or is representing your country an honor that transcends all else? Let me know your take in the comments below. This debate is just getting started. And if you want to stay on top of every twist in this ongoing drama, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll be following this story closely, because this isn't the end. It might just be the beginning of a whole new playbook for athlete empowerment.